I stood in the doorway of the trailer, cardboard box in my arms, watching my father thrust the clipboard at me like it was a weapon. He thought he was stripping me of power. He had no idea he was handing me the detonator. One signature, one click on a government portal, and I would remove the single column keeping their entire empire from collapsing under its own weight. Physics doesn't negotiate, and neither would I. I didn't blink. I didn't argue. "Okay," I said, my voice so calm it scared even me. The word hung in the air-conditioned trailer like smoke. My entire career, every late night, every crisis averted, fit into one battered cardboard box. Framed MIT degree, grandfather's drafting compass, and the black moleskin journal I'd carried for 5 years. I picked up the journal. The leather was rough, stained with coffee rings and gypsum dust. My thumb traced the spine, and the memories crashed in like cold water. Page 42, November 14th. Freezing night on a construction site. Security quit, so I slept on drywall sheets to guard the copper wiring. Dad was at a gala, schmoozing clients. I shivered under a tarp, protecting his empire while he drank champagne. Page 108, March 3rd. My personal check for $3,000 to the plumbing crew. Dad forgot payroll again. Foreman Mike said his guys were about to walk. I paid them out of my savings to keep the site alive. Dad never asked how. He just assumed it magically fixed itself. Page 215, 3 a.m. panic scribbles. Brittany ordered 5,000 square feet of Italian marble without checking subfloor load. Installation would have collapsed the dance floor mid-reception. I spent 3 nights reinforcing joists myself, bribing carpenters with pizza and overtime I paid personally. She took credit for the sturdy feel. I slept in my car. I looked up. Brittany was already at my desk, tape measure in hand, measuring the empty wall where my degree used to hang. "I think a feng shui water feature would look perfect here," she said to Dad, not even glancing at me. "The energy feels so stagnant." The truth landed heavy in my chest. I wasn't the heir. I wasn't even a partner. I was the structural support they leaned on, drilled into, and ignored, until they decided the room looked better without that ugly post in the middle. They thought the house stood because of their shiny paint and expensive furniture. They were about to learn physics the hard way. I dropped the journal into the box. It landed with a dull thud that echoed in my ribs. "Good luck with the energy flow," I said. I taped the box shut, lifted it, and walked toward the door. The midday sun hit me like a slap, blinding, hot, alive. For the first time in a decade, the weight on my shoulders lifted. Not gone, just lighter. I hadn't reached the gate when Dad stepped in front of me, clipboard clutched to his chest like armor. "Keys," he said, eyes fixed somewhere over my shoulder, probably calculating how much he'd save by cutting my salary. I dropped the site keys into his palm. They jingled, lonely, metallic, final. "And this," he said, shoving the clipboard forward. "Standard procedure, transfer of site supervision. I don't want you claiming you're still running things when Brittany delivers ahead of schedule." I scanned the document. A liability waiver. As of 12:15 p.m. today, I was no longer architect of record. No oversight. No responsibility. He thought he was protecting the company from me. He was actually handing me freedom. If I signed, every crack, every shortcut, every disaster from this second forward would be legally, undeniably his. Of course, I said. I uncapped my pen. The ink flowed smooth and black. I signed with a slow flourish, dated it to the exact minute. All yours, Dad. He snatched it back, satisfied, and turned toward the trailer. I kept walking. Mike was leaning against a lumber stack, wiping sweat from his neck. He saw the box, then the trailer. He understood instantly. I stopped, voice low. Pack your tools, Mike. Finish the shift, then tell the guys to cash their checks before 5 p.m. His eyes widened. No questions, just a sharp nod. I reached my car, threw the box on the passenger seat, cranked the AC. Hot air blasted, then cooled. I didn't drive away. Not yet. I opened my laptop, tethered to my phone. The City Department of Buildings portal loaded fast. My profile: Lydia Morrison, licensed architect. Status: active. I navigated to the Hamilton project. Big blue button on the right. Withdraw as supervisor. My finger hovered. 10 years of holding up the roof, reinforcing walls, patching cracks, saving them from their own gravity. I pressed it. Status updated. Unsupervised. Alert sent to inspector. I closed the laptop. The screen went black. It wasn't revenge. It was physics. I had removed the column. Now I just had to wait for the roof to fall. The bottle of Pinot Noir sat breathing on the counter. I poured a glass, slow, deliberate. The wine was dark, heavy, swirling against the crystal like spilled ink. My apartment was quiet. No circular saws whining, no shouts echoing across the site, no frantic phone calls pulling me back into the chaos. Just silence. Clean, expensive silence. It was 4:15 p.m. My phone vibrated against the granite, rattling toward the edge like it was trying to escape. Dad's name on the screen. I took a slow sip. Cherry, oak, a faint bite of tannin. The phone buzzed again, insistent. I swiped green and tapped speaker. You spiteful little... His voice cracked, distorted by volume and rage. In the background, the low, confused murmur of 30 men standing idle, tools in hand, no direction. Hello, Dad. They shut us down, he screamed. The inspector just left. Red tag on the gate, Lydia. A red tag. Do you have any idea what that does to the schedule? I assume it stops it, I said, leaning my hip against the counter. My pulse stayed even. Flatline. You called them. You walked out and called the city just to burn us down. This is sabotage. I'll sue you for damages. I haven't made a single call, I said, steady. I simply updated my professional status on the city portal, as required by law. Silence. Then heavy, ragged breathing, like a man realizing the floor beneath him was no longer solid. You. What? Building code, I recited, the statute number carved into muscle memory. Any commercial project over 3,000 square feet requires active supervision by a licensed architect of record. When I withdrew, the system flagged the site as unsupervised. Stop work order is automatic. Another beat of silence. Then the growl. You need to come back. Right now, fix this. I can't. I'm suspended, remember? Stop playing games, Lydia. The Hamiltons are coming for a walkthrough Friday. Then I suggest you hire a new architect. I paused, letting the words settle. Although the vetting process usually takes 6 weeks, and the review board only meets Tuesdays. Lydia. Good luck with the energy flow, Dad. I tapped the red icon. The room rushed back in, sweeter than the wine. 3 weeks of silence is an eternity in construction. Every day without progress bleeds money, permits, labor idle, interest compounding, fines stacking like bricks. By my mental tally, the daily penalties had just crossed 7 figures. I didn't need to visit the site. I had Mike. He called at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. His voice was small, shaking against the growl of a truck engine in the background. I'm out, Lydia, he said. I pulled the boys. We're done. My heart kicked once, hard. What happened? She ordered us to cut the column, the main structural support in the center of the ballroom. Said Mrs. Hamilton is threatening to pull the contract if she doesn't see open concept by morning. Please tell me you said no. I told her that column is the only thing holding the roof HVAC unit. I told her if we cut it, shear strength drops to 0. She screamed I was stuck in the past, just like you. So I packed up. I'm not going to prison for manslaughter because your sister wants a better view. Good man, Mike. She didn't stop. His voice dropped lower. She sent an intern to the Home Depot parking lot with petty cash, hired a crew of day laborers, unlicensed, no insurance. They're in there right now with sledgehammers, taking the column out. The phone felt suddenly cold against my ear. I hung up. I opened Instagram. Brittany's stories were manic. She needed to prove progress. Prove the evil city inspectors hadn't stopped her genius. Prove she was still in control. The notification hit at 2:14 a.m. One photo. The ballroom flooded with harsh work lights. Concrete dust thick on the floor like fresh snow. Rubble scattered. In the center, where the massive W12 by 53 steel column had stood for decades. Nothing. Just empty, terrifying space. The ceiling sagged, almost imperceptibly. A detail only someone who understood load paths would notice. The joists were already crying under the sudden redistribution. Caption: Vision realized. The ugly post is gone. Open concept achieved. No limits. Hashtag design goals. Hashtag Hamilton project. Hashtag by Brittany. She had just posted a confession to a felony on the internet. Comments poured in. So open! Stunning! Brave choice! They were applauding a room that was physically impossible. I didn't comment. I didn't DM her to warn that the ceiling was screaming. I took a screenshot. Then I opened a new email. 2. Department of Buildings Enforcement Division, CC. Hamilton Indemnity Group, Risk Management. Subject: Urgent. Structural alteration violation. 412 Oak Street. Permit number HMLTN-2025-078. Attached, File A. Original stamped blueprints. Column highlighted as critical load-bearing element. File B. Instagram post, time-stamped 2:04 a.m., showing column removed. Body. As a licensed architect formerly associated with this project, I am mandatory reporting an immediate life safety hazard per Code Section 1704.2.5. I hit send. It wasn't snitching. It was mandatory reporting. If I saw an imminent danger and stayed silent, I could lose my license too. The collapse didn't happen in one dramatic crash. It came in slow, terrifying dominoes. Domino 1, the city. At 7 a.m., the emergency response team didn't knock politely. They cut the chain link lock on the gate with bolt cutters. No clipboards this time, just bright yellow caution tape unrolling like crime scene ribbon. They evacuated the night shift day laborers who scattered like startled birds. Then they slapped an emergency vacate order across the front entrance. The building wasn't just stopped. It was condemned. Red tape turned to yellow, yellow to barricades. Done. Domino 2, the bank. Commercial construction loans come with good standing clauses buried in fine print. A condemned property trips the algorithm like a tripwire. By noon, the lender's system flagged the Hamilton project as distressed. Loan acceleration clause activated. Full repayment of the $2.5 million construction draw demanded, immediately. No grace period, no negotiation, just wires flying out of accounts that were already bleeding. Domino 3, the kill shot. Dad never saw this one coming. At 4 p.m., a courier in a navy polo knocked on Dad's front door. He didn't hand over a check or a settlement offer. He delivered a single envelope from the insurance carrier. Reference, claim number 9092, investigation findings attached. Most people assume insurance covers stupidity. It doesn't. It covers lightning strikes, burst pipes, wind damage. It does not cover willful, documented violation of building codes. Brittany had ordered the removal of a critical structural element without permit, engineering stamp, or licensed supervision. Worse, she'd photographed the act herself and posted it online with a time-stamped confession. The policy exclusion was crystal clear. Intentional acts, gross negligence, code violations knowingly undertaken. Coverage voided. Zero payout. Dad wasn't facing a failed project anymore. He was staring down personal liability for the Hamiltons' $4.2 million breach of contract lawsuit, filed exactly 1 hour after the condemnation notice hit their inbox. The estate, the cars, the vacation cabin upstate, the business itself. All of it. Gone. Gravity had finally sent the invoice. The knock on my apartment door came 3 days later. Weak, hesitant, more question than demand. I checked the peephole. Dad stood in the hallway, looking a decade older overnight. Suit wrinkled, shoulders collapsed inward like the roof he'd helped destroy. He held a crumpled document in one trembling hand. I opened the door, but only as far as the security chain allowed. The steel link pulled taut, a 3-inch gap between his world and mine. "Lydia," he whispered. His voice cracked on my name. "Please, the bank. If you just sign a retroactive approval, say you authorized the change before you left, the insurance might reconsider. We can still save the house." I looked at the paper he was offering through the gap. A backdated change order. Fraud, plain and simple. He was asking me to lie under my professional seal, to commit a felony, to bail him out of the consequences of his own favoritism. I met his eyes, the same eyes that used to praise Brittany's vision while I patched the holes she left behind. I can't sign off on physics, Dad. We're family, he choked out. Tears welled, but they looked practiced, manipulative. You removed the support, I said softly. Gravity did the rest. I pushed the door closed. The latch clicked. It was the loudest, most final sound I'd ever heard. People ask if I regret it. They ask how I could stand by while my childhood home went to auction. Strangers walking through rooms where I once drew blueprints on the dining table. They wonder if the victory tastes bitter. Here are the receipts. The bankruptcy court finalized the liquidation of Morrison Architecture on a Tuesday in February. The Hamilton estate seizure covered roughly 60% of the judgment. Dad's personal assets, the house, the Mercedes, the cabin, covered the rest. He lives in a one-bedroom rental now, somewhere off a highway exit. Brittany fled to Arizona to dodge debt collectors. She sells essential oils on Facebook Live and posts long rants about toxic employees who sabotaged her genius. As for me, I work for a mid-sized commercial developer who pays me what I'm worth. I leave the office at 5 p.m. sharp. I sleep through the night. No 3 a.m. panic scrolls. No more invisible load-bearing. But the real ending isn't the lawsuit or the auction. It's what shifted inside my head. 6 months after the collapse, a voicemail arrived. Lydia, it's Thanksgiving. Your mother would have wanted us together. I'm willing to forgive you if you come home. I listened twice. The familiar manipulation. The refusal to own a single mistake. The breathtaking audacity to offer me forgiveness for his crime. I pressed delete. Blocked the number. That evening, I had dinner with Mike and his family. We laughed. Real laughter, not the type kind that hides panic. We ate. No one screamed. No one demanded I fix their mess. That's when I finally understood the architecture of a toxic family. If you're listening to this and you feel the entire weight of your family's happiness resting on your shoulders alone, listen to the 3 rules I learned in the Rebel so you don't have to learn them the hard way. Rule number 1. Competence is a threat to incompetence. I used to believe if I just worked harder, saved them one more time, they'd finally see me, respect me. I was wrong. Narcissists don't want partners. They want props. Every time I fixed Brittany's disaster, I reminded Dad his golden child was flawed. They didn't hate me for failing. They hated me for succeeding. Rule number 2. The price of peace is everything. You can't negotiate with emotional terrorists, even if they share your DNA. I had to be willing to lose the inheritance, the family name, the approval, to gain my freedom. It felt like dying. But when the smoke cleared, I realized I hadn't lost a family. I'd lost an anchor dragging me to the ocean floor. Rule number 3. Gravity always wins. You can bribe inspectors, bully daughters, fake success on Instagram, but you cannot bribe physics. If you build a life on lies and nepotism, the roof will fall. It is not your job to stand underneath and catch the debris. So look at your life. Look at the people demanding your loyalty while trampling your boundaries. Are you the pillar holding up a rotting roof? Step aside. Let it fall. And on the empty lot that remains, build something that belongs only to you.